Hey everybody, welcome to Surface Level, curious conversations about the Black and queer experience. I'm one of your hosts, Tony, and today, Jordan, Damon, and I are discussing why society refuses to believe in Black women. What are some ways that Black women still, to this day, fight to be taken seriously?
All of my work celebrates the complexity of the African American woman. Black women don't get that in Hollywood. They don't service that.
Kamala is not a difficult name to pronounce or to be able to get right.
There's clear difference between accidents happening and intention.
This is none of it is of surprise to me.
This film was out of this world to me. It's a Lee Daniels production. What do you want to leave people with from this piece of work?
Believing a Black woman when she tells you something, believe her. But I think that for this, I want people to walk away with a higher power.
This is The Deliverance. All right. What's up?
All right.
What's going on? Listen, it's been a long time since people have seen us like this. But it's only fitting because we are going to be talking about The Deliverance, which we'll get into in a moment. And shit is spooky over here. So you get in surface level at home and an extra bonus episode because we literally just wrapped our season. So who knew we would be back on camera? But here we are. And we have the opportunity to discuss and talk to today with someone whose career we've been following for a really long time. And so I'm going to jump in and introduce them and first start with some clues. Shadowboxer, Empire, Precious, Star, The Butler. These works all have one thing in common, and that's none other than the Academy Award nominated film director, writer, producer, and dad whose work continues to push the envelope every single time, sparking conversation and impacting culture. Today, we are really excited and thrilled to welcome Lee Daniels to our Surface Level family.
Ooh. Welcome.
Hello, boys.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello,
Cheers.
boys.
This is exciting. I'm looking forward to this.
Let me ask you something. Are we being seen or are we just being heard?
We're being seen and heard.
Seen and heard, as well we should be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, as I told you earlier, I was secretly following you guys. And I don't know why I was secretly following you, because you were talking about such stuff that was just, I don't know, we don't talk about publicly, or I don't certainly hadn't talked about publicly. And then I was like, one thing, I like these little faggots. They're fabulous. They're beautiful. They're wonderful. They make me laugh and they make me think. And they really, I wish that my friends, I wish we had something like this. God, life would be so much easier if we had something like this when I was your age.
Yeah, listen, there was a listener of ours who said their journey to their living as their full Butch Queen self would have been, just expedited if they had something like this growing up. And so for us, it's a pleasure to hear you say that, first of all, and to have you on and to even just have this moment happen. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you were able to join us, and I'm glad that we get to have like generational conversations, and hopefully, you're gonna use this as a trial run, and hopefully you'll be back for us to speak with us and have a conversation.
I was looking at some of the pre-questions, and I was like, this is why are we talking about this? I mean, why are we talking about this? This is not what these boys talk about, but I'll talk about it if they want to talk about it. I'm an open book. I'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about.
I mean, honestly, this is like, the three of us, we've been friends for a very long time. And so we have literally, I think we just crossed over like 105 episodes now. And so we have literally gone through almost any topic that you can think of this season has been the most risque as well. So I'm happy that you saw it and was just like, ooh, 'cause that's how I felt when we actually went into pre-production for this season. I was just like, oh my God. But every time we have these conversations, I walk away always feeling like, ooh, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Like, this was actually like, I actually felt like I was able to get something off my chest and the world didn't fall apart. So.
Right. So
Yep.
I'm just going to go ahead and dive into and just set this up a little bit. So again, for today's conversation, we're going to be unpacking one of the themes coming out of Lee's latest film, the faith-based thriller entitled The Deliverance, which you can find on Netflix today. But before we go deeper, let's start on the surface level with an icebreaker. And I'm going to call this game Demon Time. So Lee, I don't know what you know about Demon Time, but I'm going to provide a few scenarios and let's see how you handle Demon Time. And those are those late night moments when the vibes get wild and anything can happen. So Demon Time, you might be liable to just carry a little bit and come outside yourself. So the first scenario, you're at a party and it's giving vibes. It's 1 a.m. and the DJ starts playing that thing you like. You hit the dance floor with your best 8 count, or B, you stay on the sidelines, but you're hyping up everyone like you're the life of the party. Let's start with Lee.
Okay, so when I was your age, there was a club called the Catch One, and I was there, and it was the only black club in Los Angeles. It was as big as Studio 54. Madonna sang there, Patti LaBelle sang there. It was like, and it was just like a club that only black queer people attended, only a warehouse, and I would always dance. And now I find as I get older that I don't dance. So no, sadly no. I don't know why I don't dance. I'm self-conscious now.
So you don't dance now, you make money moves.
Yeah, but I like dancing better. There's something liberating about dancing. Jordan,
So
what do you think?
For you, Jordan?
I mean, honestly, it really just comes down to the music track. Anything that has like Jersey Club mix in it, I'm dancing. So like if it's, an artist today who has a lot of like Jersey Club mix influence in their music is Ice Spice. But if I hear that beat, like I'll start dancing. But any other time, I'm just hyping up my friends and like, supporting them. I'm a little bit shy when it comes to dancing too, even though I'm a former dancer.
And what about you, Damon?
I'm not a formal dancer, but I like dancing. It's fun. It's freeing, and I like being free. So I'll see y'all on the dance floor.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely on the dance floor. I'm on the dance floor giving you my best 8 count. So second scenario, it's Demon Time and your crush is sending you flirty texts. They ask you to slide through. Are you A, you text back immediately, be there in 15 minutes and start getting ready, or B, you leave them on red for a bit, making sure they really bout that life before you respond? How are you moving on that scenario, Lee?
It depends on how bad I want it. If I really want it bad and I don't care, I'm going for it. So I don't have time to play games. If I don't have time to play games, so I'm pretty. Before I was playing games, you know what I mean? When I was in my 30s and 40s, I was not even 50s, but I don't have time to play games right now. If I want the dick, I want the ass, I'm hitting it right then. Now, get over here, now.
Immediately.
Decisive.
I don't play games anymore.
Yeah, that's tough because it really depends on which crush it is and what itch they scratch. Because typically I lean towards playing a little games and just being like, you know what, let's create some suspense. But sometimes when it's too late though, you don't want to miss out because then people fall asleep. People find somebody else. And so, if it's somebody who I feel like it's a hassle to get to track them down and to make it happen, I'm going to be on the 15-minute reply back while also getting ready.
Absolutely. What about you, Damon?
I don't understand why people play games in the first place. I want what I want. I like what I like. I will have it. The end.
Listen, I'm not trying to play the ghetto games either. It takes too much work. It requires too much work and time, child. Scenario 3. You're on a late night group chat with your besties and someone starts spilling the tea about mutual friends. Are you A, you dive right in, sharing your hot takes and opinions, or B, you play it cool, just sending emojis and letting the drama unfold while you sip your tea?
Oh, she has a prop.
How about you, Lee? You joining in on the shenanigans, or you sitting back and sipping tea?
I mean, I used to join in on the shenanigans, but I don't do that anymore. I'm sipping tea.
Are you?
But listen, I'm guilty as fuck for throughout most of my life in on the shenanigans.
Yeah.
But
No,
I don't care to anymore.
See, I don't waste a second. I'm jumping right in with the tea. If it's my bestie too, like I don't know. We have something called the kitchen table, and we put it all out there. But yeah, I'm definitely exchanging notes.
100%. Damon?
I feel like I'm just sipping the tea. I feel like people just be going on and on in the group chat, and I just feel like y'all have at it. And then I'll come back when something important happens.
Yeah, for me, it's the thing is, it's like, if it's something that I really have on my chest, I want to say it to their face. I like having a conversation, ripping the Band-Aid off, and why am I sitting here cackling with you girls when I could just read this bitch directly? Scenario 4: the clock strikes midnight, and you get a text from your ex saying, "WID." What you doing? Are you A, you're already out the door, ready for that red light special because you know it's good? Or B, you leave them on red because you're not about to let them disrupt your peace?
B.
Jordan?
In the words of Beyonce, I don't look back. So no, I'm not available for an ex.
It depends. I mean, for me, I'm like, for an ex, it's never happened to me in actual real life, but I could see a scenario where it's like, you're comfortable with that person, you know it's good, and maybe you just horny.
I mean, are we framing ex in the context of like we no longer have a good relationship? Because like I have exes who I have a good relationship with who we can play and do.
I think it's all exes. Yeah. Any ex.
Oh. Okay. Because I feel like the framing of the question is for like when you got a bad relationship with the ex, but you know it's a good time. Like that seems to be the framing.
Mm-hmm.
See, she'll like when I ask questions during the game. I'm going to go yes and no there. It
yes
depends
and no. Lee, have you ever ran back to an ex?
No.
Or keep the past in the past?
Bye.
The door is closed.
I love that. All right, last scenario. You're at the club and someone challenges you to a Vogue battle. Are you A, you accept the challenge immediately, bringing it the old way and giving a fierce catwalk? Or B, you laugh it off saying maybe next time, but you stay ready in case you might have to pop out and show niggas?
So this is funny because I went to OTA last night and somebody asked me, it's open to all. It's like a Vogue night that happens in New York every Monday. Okay. And it's like you can be in the scene or you can it's open to anybody. So like anybody can walk the categories. And I was talking to somebody and they were like, oh, you won't go out on the floor? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Will you have me going viral? And do what? And get chopped? No. No.
Do a whole nasty duck walk.
Ooh.
That'll be the last walk I ever did. If I get these old knees down there.
I'm not athletic enough for a duck walk. I have to say no.
Yeah, I think for me, my option is definitely going to be B because, I'm an icon. I'm a legend. If I have to pop out and show niggas, I'll do that. However, when someone's trying to challenge me, it's giving, sweetie, you're wasting your time. I feel like that might be Lee's answer too.
I don't know. So this is when the real balls was happening. you know, I wouldn't vogue because I thought it was very effeminate, and I was embarrassed about about being that, and so I would never do it. I just did not. I was not in touch with my feminine side then, so I never learned how.
We can go to class.
I just went deep. I didn't want to. But these are the parts of the conversation. Listen, this is what I love about y'all. Y'all talk about this kind of shit.
Yeah, I mean, when you said that, I was just staring off into space because I was thinking that kind of resonates with me too. You know, like I was growing up trying to dance. I didn't really dance until I was in college because I felt like dancing in Trenton, New Jersey, would have got me picked on, and I needed to like lean more boyish while I was there to survive that environment. But then when I got to Howard, I was just like, okay, let me join a dance team. But even then, still, like I wasn't voguing for that same reason as well. So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. It's also funny because one of the people I was with last night is a professional dancer, and he's in New York right now. And he was just like, I was taking some Vogue classes, and the instructor was just like, you need to let your feminine side out. He was just like, even as a professional dancer, he's always been taught like, even if you're doing ballet, I want to see a man on stage. Like that's the expectation in that world. So then for him to take classes where femininity is like a part of it and you should have it, he was just like, that was like a really eye-opening and like beautiful thing for him to experience.
Yeah. And so finally for you, Lee, and we asked this to all of our guests. This is our sort of our marquee for surface level hashtag stay curious. We want to know from you, what are you curious about? And just in life. Yeah.
You know what I'm curious about? I'm fascinated about sleeping. I've never slept with a trans man. I'm fascinated about it.
Yeah, no, I know a few folks who have had experiences with trans men sexually and they've loved it. And I even have had my own thoughts recently about like, I'm curious about that. What would that experience be like? Especially if it's, you know, I've never had sex with a actual like cisgendered heterosexual woman. I've never experienced a vagina is what I'm saying. And so
then how do you know you're gay? Then how do you know you're gay if you haven't had sex with a woman?
Oh, I know.
Because
I ain't never seen no parts of the pussy. and I knew.
I've slept with several women. I mean, I slept with several women before I knew for sure. Yeah.
It's interesting with us being, you know, we're around in our mid 30s. And so having these thoughts now and you're an elder statesman in the best way and you're having the same thoughts. So I love that we're staying curious.
Yeah. I mean, why though? I mean, I guess I'm fascinated about the why now. I think that we're in such a place that I don't even know what I'm watching half the time. You know, I don't know who's what. And I just feel old. But that in itself, I when I first saw that, somebody introduced me to that porn, and I was like, whoa, mm-hmm. whoa. It was like my head started spinning because I couldn't figure out why would she become a he to be with another he. That and then just something. It's very interesting.
I think like I was watching something on Netflix about just sort of like how people form attractions. And we form attractions when we have an increased exposure to something. So if we see something more and more over time, then we grow a stronger attraction to it. And I think that in the recent years, we're just seeing a lot more trans representation in media, in our social media feeds, in movies, films, and everything like that. And so I think that when you're seeing it more, you can identify it more. You can say, oh, I really like it. And then in terms of like, you know, identity and sexuality, like I think that's the lovely thing about it is like you can transition your gender and still, you know, have a non-traditional sexuality or sexuality that doesn't match what the stereotype is for that gender identity. So at this point, it's just kind of like, what do you like? You know what I mean? So I love hearing people just say like, this is what I like and this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump in here with a little setup and get into the meat and potatoes of our conversation, and we'll go through this laissez-faire. So I'm going to give a bit of a synopsis.
I like that word. I use that word. Many of you, can I tell you something also, you guys? I got to tell you, I'm sorry, I'm going to veer off a little bit. I'm coming back to you guys and tell you how proud I am of you, because I learned things from you guys. Honestly, I didn't go to college. I went to college for a year and a half. I couldn't afford it. And, but you guys are so intelligent, and you'll say a phrase or a sentence literally, and I write it down and look it up. You're so smart. You're so intelligent. You're so, I've learned from you when I'm on, and that's really nice, because I have to be a leader when I'm directing, and I run a big television company, but I have my boys that sort of speak for me, where I'm hiding behind like the Wizard of Oz, you know what I mean? and so I don't have to really talk that much, but I've learned so much from you guys, and thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So hopefully through this conversation, we'll continue some learning, and let's get into it. So, inspired by true events, The Deliverance is about a family living in a home in Indiana who discovers strange demonic occurrences that convince them and the community that the house is a portal to hell. There's a star-studded cast, which we love: Andra Day, Glenn Close, Anjanou Ellis-Taylor, and the long-awaited reunion that we love to see, Monique, working back with Lee Daniels. The film covers many themes, from generational trauma to addiction to spirituality, but today we're going to talk about the theme of believing Black women. #believe Black women. And this is something that I don't think we've discussed in this way. So this is a first for Surface Level to really dive in deep on this topic. And so in the film, Andra's character, Ebony, who is struggling with alcohol addiction and undealt with trauma, is fighting to not have her kids taken away because her social worker, played by Monique, doesn't believe that they are actually possessed by demons, but instead that they're being abused. And that brings us to this first question around society and believing in Black women. Why is it so hard for people to believe Black women when they speak up?
I've always believed Black women. I believe them more than I believe Black men. I believe Black women. I've been celebrated by Black women as a gay boy growing up. I had 8 aunts that were from Philadelphia and Atlantic City and all, Baltimore. They really surrounded me with all different like fabulousnesses that why wouldn't I believe it? I don't know. It's deep. It's real. It's twisted, because even with Kamala, you look at it. Part of the reason that I did it was because my mom wasn't believed. Well, anything that I'm working on is part of my life, and so I remember my mother paying back in the day, you had to pay your electric bill. You'd go down there, or they'd come and turn your stuff. And my mother paid the bill, and she showed this white man the thing, and he still cut it off. He didn't believe her. She showed him the bill, and she said, "Why don't you believe me?" This is something, and it translates even to now to Kamala, where Black people aren't believing her, and they twisted her words around. They twisted it, what she's done as an American citizen, completely around. It's a conundrum for me, and y'all the smart ones, y'all tell me.
Well, Lee, you bring up an interesting point, because with this question, the first thing that I thought about was that whenever my mother made herself clear to me, I believed her. She wasn't fucking around. So I like you, I never had a problem believing Black women, but I do think that there are so many harmful stereotypes out there about Black women in the media and entertainment, and it's what people, these tropes that are out there in what we watch and consume on television. And a lot of times Black women are perceived as subhuman. They're perceived as being deserving of abuse, and being equipped to handle it. And that to me is as part of, like, as a society, why they continue to be the most disrespected persons in America. And so, yeah, like that's part of it for me, why I think Black women aren't being believed.
Yeah, I think it's just honestly, it's the history of racism and misogyny in this country. I think that everyone's familiar with the angry Black woman trope. I mean, I work in a corporate setting, and I talk to Black women all the time about how they feel like they have to smile. And if they're not smiling in the office, then people think that they're upset. And then now they don't want to, they feel like they're nervous about, like, engaging with them, or they feel like they aren't as much of a team player. And even in the healthcare system, you know what I mean? Like, Black women's pain isn't really taken seriously. And I think it's just a history of just not really, the country in general, not really valuing all that they do. Because the thing is, it's so ironic that they aren't believed so much, but they also contribute so much to society. Like, I also grew up with very affirming Black women. I grew up with 4 aunts and a grandmother. There were men in my life, but they weren't as present as the women. And so my experience coming, into adulthood and seeing, like, my female friends experience what they're experiencing, I'm just like, oh, I didn't grow up like that. Like, when I grew up, like, women were in charge. So for me, I'm a bit perplexed why it's still going on too.
Yeah. I also think there's, like, a layer to click into in the queer community. If you think about Black trans women, the experiences that they've had, and I was thinking through that lens a lot, actually, when coming into this conversation, where you have people that exist in this spectrum, where on one end, on a conservative end, people don't want them to exist. Do not believe in trans womanhood, do not believe in Black trans womanhood, will pass every law to harm said people, do not believe in gender affirming care. On the other end of that spectrum, you have certain men in particular who may be trans attracted or love these women, and are so afraid of what society will think about them for it, that it then puts those women in harm for engaging in relation with those same people. So to sit in that spectrum and then on both ends of it with the people who are supposed to or telling you that they care for you, put you in danger. And the people on the other end, if people don't want you to exist, but then you still have this kind of will within our community specifically that you are still doing the work for people who wouldn't even stand up for you. Like, you think about queer liberation, you think about all the rights that we, the collective 4 here, share. A lot of those are due to the work and the pain and the voices of Black trans women and brown trans women. So I think that there's this interesting through line with how womanhood is treated, not just in cis communities, but also within the queer community. So that was something that I thought was really interesting to look at, to see how, I think, perplexing the harm done towards femininity and towards womanhood is, no matter what community you're in.
Right. I love that point, Damon, because it brings at least me back to the point of people not knowing their history and not knowing where things started, how certain movements have started, who began those movements. And even when with all things considered, when I think about movements like the Me Too movement, for instance, or Black Lives Matter, for instance, those were started by Black women. Mm-hmm. They're at the front lines of these major social and injustice movements, and a lot of people don't even realize who started these fights. So that's where you're bringing me on that one. But I'm curious, like, with talking about history, there's a long history of Black women not being believed in this country and around the world. And so I want to know, like, what are some ways that Black women still to this day fight to be taken seriously? Lee mentioned Kamala, and that's one fight that's like, no matter how much she's achieved with all of her success, she's still fighting to prove herself. But I'm also thinking from a medical standpoint, from a professional standpoint, from an intimate partner standpoint, like what are some ways women are still fighting to be taken seriously?
Yeah, I mean, I think Lee mentioned Kamala Harris, and I just want to mention this really quick, just because this has really, really been bothering me. I'm watching a lot of political content, and there are full-time career politicians who still do not know how to pronounce her first name, which I think is it just makes my skin crawl, because how are you covering the presidential election, and this is your full-time job, and you can't even pronounce the name of the Democratic nominee? And if you are a native English speaker, Kamala is not a difficult name to pronounce or to be able to get right. And we've had people on our show who have had more complex names that we've asked them before we even started the interview how to pronounce it. And we've practiced together a few times to make sure that we say it correctly and went into that interview prepared. And so when I see that happen, it's just you can tell that it's not even like a mistake. At this point, it's an intentional act of disrespect and disregard. And so that is just, that's something that really, really.
Zord, wait a minute. Hold on. I gotta interject, because I get it, but there are a lot of people like me that have ADD or whatever it is. And I talked to Patti LaBelle about it because I'm bad at names. And so like the girl that stars in my movie, her name is Andrade, but sometimes I call her Andrade. And
no, it's Andra.
There
you
go.
You got it backwards.
Are you with me? Do you see what I'm saying? So sometimes
but I know this because I looked it up. I did my homework.
See what I'm saying? So this is what I'm saying. You guys, maybe there's a sense of caring. There's a sense of sensitivity, an extra sensitivity that you guys have that I don't have, because I'm with her like this all the time. And if I'm not working with her, if I didn't call her Billie Holiday, because when I'm on set, I call them by their characters' names, so that when we're promoting, then I have to remember her name. So I don't know, with the Kamala thing, I'm also friends with Kamala, but because I'm so paranoid about it, I won't fuck that up.
No, I mean, I get, and anything that's like neuroatypical or like learning disabilities or anything like that. Like I definitely get that. But this specific interview that I was thinking about, Keith Boykin was actually in the interview, and the woman who kept mispronouncing her name was corrected over and over again. And at one point in the interview, she said, "I'll call her whatever I want to call her." Whoa. And that is when I was just like, it's intentional. You know what I mean? Even when she was announced as the Democratic nominee, I remember a governor, I can't remember exactly which governor, but he was just like, for Joe Biden to go as low as to picking, you pick a woman, but like to go as low as to that, like trying to say like a black woman is like unacceptable for you to be able to put forth as the nominee. It's just, it's very intentional. So if it's like a mistake,
don't you realize that everybody is acting like this is like, why is any of this a surprise? I mean, I think that none of it is a surprise to me. We are living in America where we come from a family of slaves, where this country is divided. They've just metastasized this idea of ownership into slavery into another way. It's generational now. It's like the country is still divided. We are living in a divided country. This is nothing. This is it. None of it is of surprise to me. We are niggas to them, to 50% of the country, whether we like it or not.
That's so true.
You can be intelligent. You can go to fucking Harvard for all you a nigga. Period. So so how do you learn to navigate yourself? How do you learn to navigate yourself? I'm sorry, Tony. I'm veering off subject. That's
no. This is actually what this show is about. It's like we have these conversations. We're at the kitchen table, conversations veer off. This is not you better answer when I text, you respond. No.
I was going to say that I think that there's just this clear difference between accidents happening and intention. And I think specifically the interview with Keith Boykin, Michael Eric Dyson, Congresswoman from South Carolina, who very interestingly, I can't think of her name at the moment, but she was at the Capitol on January 6th. It was her first time being sworn in. And I remember they interviewed her on CNN, and she was like, I'm here with my daughter because I thought it'd be, and she's a Republican. She was like, I thought it would be exciting for her to see her mom, a woman, be sworn in to Congress. And then they're in the Capitol. She brought her up there for the week. And then this all happens, and she's just like, this is crazy. Donald Trump did all this crazy shit. And then to see that same person, due to power and due to what power does to people, turn around, 4 years later, and be on the side of that person who, in her own words, was putting her family at risk, just to then demean Black women. Like, you'd rather be aligned with somebody who could have got your damn daughter killed than to show enough love and say this Black woman's name correctly. And you know what? To the I think Lee's question was like, what do you do with that? I don't give a fuck. I have so far past living my life through the lens of what white people, or not white people, racist people, whomever they may be, care and think about it. And I think that when I stopped trying to, find logic in that negativity was when I found a lot more peace.
Amen. Amen. I love you. That's so smart. I wish I had. Seriously. I wish I knew what you know now back then, because I don't know where I would be right now. The world would be mine. Seriously, the world would be mine. I just remember, coming into Hollywood and having to speak white, having to lie to say I went to Harvard, literally, to get into doors. To pretend that I wasn't homeless, all of that and it was quite normal. It was of the norm. That was how you navigated back then. You know what I mean? And now, and it didn't matter because none of the films that they weren't fucking with me anyway. They didn't want to see Monsters Ball. They didn't get the fuck out of here. What do they didn't want to see. Precious, none of it. All my films have been independently financed from the streets, and so I'm trying to please, but I got them back when I was selling them to them. I flipped it around when they realized what they were fucking with, and that they could make some money. But I think that at the end, I've lost my train of thought. Well, I was saying something, but something profound. It was basically saying that I'm trying to be nice to somebody that's never going to understand me anyway. So what the fuck? Right. Why am I trying to, what am I trying to, who, what, and it's taken me a long time to understand that. And, even with Empire, I couldn't put my kids through college, and I was sitting here with all these sort of Oscar noms, Oscar winners and stuff. And I didn't, with independent cinema, you just don't have, you're an artist, but, and so, I decided to flip Empire into television because somebody told me, Whitney Cummings from Two Broke Girls said, you could make a lot of money. So we decided to do that. And it was the first time I had to listen to, seriously, white people telling me how to navigate Black culture. Like, well, why is Cookie beating this boy? It's abuse. Well, why are they doing that? What, and I was like, okay, I didn't care. I was back then, I didn't understand. I didn't care. I didn't want to do television. I didn't want people coming on me or anything. Yeah. And so at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just basically saying that it is, it took me a long time to get where you are, Damon. And I wish that I had gotten there a lot sooner.
And something I thought a lot about was something Michelle Obama said at the DNC. People often have this limited, small view of like what people can be, or they can't imagine successful, highly educated people who happen to be Black or happen to be women or happen to be Black women, happen to be Black trans women. And I think that people are often kind of typecast into the idea of what they can see for you. And I just think I wish there was less of that. Like, even if I think about media, like I think about all the women that were on the films that were on Pose, and I'm excited to see that MJ Rodriguez is like on Loot now. She's playing a character who her transness is not centered. It's just her as a being, as a human living life. But I also think about a lot of the other women and films that were on that show that I would love to see more from, and love to see them in spaces where you don't have to do the trans ballroom show for them to be working, or you don't have to do this trans story for them to work.
I had a big problem with this show because I lived the world, and it was a white person that was orchestrating it all, and sort of it never landed in a sense of truth for me. But even though I really support all of the talent that's on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, before we move on to the last couple of questions, I just wanted back to the points around women still having to fight to be taken seriously. As it relates to the medical front, I did find a little bit of research from an independent source for policy research that talked about how 1 in 5 Black women say that they have been treated unfairly by a healthcare provider or staff because of their racial or ethnic background. And a similar percentage of Black women who have been pregnant or gave birth in the last 10 years say that they were refused pain medication that they thought they needed for themselves. And then on the professional front, we know that there's a pay gap with Black women, and they're not typically paid what they're worth. We see a lot of people in Hollywood, a lot of Black women in Hollywood are talking about that now. And so according to the Pew Research Center, in 2022, it says that Black women earned 70% of what their white male counterparts earned. And when it relates to the intimate partner violence piece, with that piece specifically, I don't think about that as just partners. I think about it also as family members. In the Black community, matters around abuse like that are often the family secret. And Black women are less likely to actually come out and speak about those things because of things being the family secret. So I'm going to move on to the next question that focuses on the idea that as for Black, queer, gay men, be talking about this topic, believing in Black women, and we don't have any Black women representation here. And on the show, we usually talk about the Black queer experience, but I want to understand, why is it important for us as Black, queer, gay men to be addressing this topic?
I mean, I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for
That's
Black
right.
women, and not from a birthing standpoint, but also just Black women have been my inspiration for almost everything that I do. Growing up, my mom was a hero to me. My grandmother was really, really strong. She would, she did a lot. Ooh, all right. They doing the Fast and Furious outside. I just did my family vacation last month. And we all went on a vacation, something that we are trying to do now that we're a little bit older and my generation is older and can afford it. But, it's all the women. It's all the older women. We don't have any of the men there. They're not coming on these trips. Yeah. And the women are the ones that were showing up to support, my basketball games and, coming to my competitions and making sure that I was able to go to college and showing up to the surface level charity brunch. And then even in my professional career, I attribute a lot of my success to women of color who have basically brought me underneath their wing and give me all of their resources and knowledge. And they're also so nurturing because society makes them nurturing. But I think that, I think it's just important for me just because I don't have there's no other force on this earth that I think has been more influential in me being able to realize the life that I have right now. And so for me, it's just always top of mind.
Yeah, like Jordan, when you talking about you wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for Black women, that's exactly where my mind went. You know, Black women raised me, and Black women raised all of us. We wouldn't be here without them. So I just love, you know, that we get to lift them up, because I do feel that when it comes to speaking about groups of people that are marginalized, the folks that we're focusing on, and right now it happens to be Black women, it takes folks who are not in that category to actually use their voices and whatever privilege they have to be on the front lines fighting. And so, you know, I feel like that's the part that I play. It's my instinct to protect Black women, to honor them, to show up for them, even when I'm not being asked, because that's how I was raised.
Yeah, no, I think the last thing you said, Tony, is what I always come back to. Like, I find that true liberation of any underrepresented group is coming from people not in that community, speaking up for it, fighting for it. It's about cis people fighting for trans people. It's about white people fighting for your crazy cousin about their racism. It's about us as Black queer men being able to speak for and in defense of Black trans women. And I think that, to me, is how you go further. And, like, yes, me as a person, I'm going to fight my own battles, say what I have to say, so on and so forth. But it makes it a bit easier when you feel like you're not doing that thing alone. You get to more people who may not be listening to their specific voice if we're speaking. And our audience is mainly queer, cis men, and who may not be having conversations about the issues that are affecting Black women or the point I'm making around Black trans women. So I think it's important for us to continue to do that.
I think, let me just share that my experience in Hollywood has been like, you know, if I go online and I start reading into the negative, why is Lee Daniels always portraying African-American women so negatively? And, you know, just being with Black actresses, they complain that there aren't complicated roles out for them. They're just like, they're never nuanced roles. So all of my work celebrates the complexity of the African-American woman, really at its genesis. From my first film, Monsters Ball, and I'm responsible for Halle getting the Oscar for that, first Black woman getting the Oscar for that. You don't write roles like that for women. Black women don't get that in Hollywood. They don't service that. And so to find that kind of brilliant writing and everything, they're complicated. So that's my way of celebrating them. I celebrate them because that's the only way I know how to celebrate them is to make sure that they're working with complicated roles. And that doesn't make them like one-dimensional, one-note, perfect human beings. They're flawed, like we all are.
Yeah. And that's why it's important that we have people like you telling our stories. We have to tell our own stories from an authentic standpoint, someone who actually gives a fuck and cares. And so with that, I want to ask you, Lee, to...
We didn't even talk about movie. 40 minutes in. 40 minutes we didn't even... But this is what I'm so fascinated by you guys. Listen, I'm so excited to be here with you guys. So the film is an afterthought.
Well, no, because now you're right on time. We've been talking about the film throughout with that theme of believe Black women, but now we're gonna wrap it up in a cute little bow, because I want to understand from you, like this film was out of this world to me. I was just taken in so many different directions that I was just like, whoa, you know, it's a Lee Daniels production, and I say that in the high, like that's the highest way I know how to like deliver that. I want people to go out and watch it on their own on Netflix. Tell your friends about it, watch it with each other. But what do you want to leave people with from this piece of work? Because you talked about never doing this again in this genre. So
check box next. I'll do a I don't know, maybe an action film or superhero film next, just so I can check a box, just creatively to check a box. But I think that for this, I want people to walk away with a higher power. Tomorrow isn't promised for any of us. And, again, I've always lived my life thinking that I have tomorrow. And part of what I do is I sort of smell what's in the air. And I'm always a little ahead of the curve when I'm telling my stories, I'm always thinking ahead, a little ahead. And we're in some dark times. I keep saying this. And it wasn't until I met with Biden when he was running for president. There was a group of us that sat with him, writers and actors and directors, Black. He couldn't get the Black vote. And he was like, I've done more for, and he was serious too. He's like, I've done more for Black people than any president, including Obama. And he started listing the facts, and they were facts. And so Chris Rock was like, well, why don't you tell people this? Like, why don't you tell people this? This is a group of like maybe 15, 20 people, Black people in Hollywood, to go and to get the Black vote, the male vote out for him. And he said, because I'm spending most of my time trying to stop nuclear war. Enough said. Yeah. And I think that tomorrow isn't promised. We could be going like that. We better find a higher power. That was the purpose of finding me. So I was here if I was going to do a horror movie, I needed to make it resonate for me. And for me, it's Jesus. So for me, it was about finding a higher power and finding my spirituality. And I was going to scare you to that, trying to make you scared to that. So that you walk away with that. You walk away with believing a Black woman. When she tells you something, believe her. When she tells you something, believe her. And also, I really wanted to talk about what I have so many biracial friends. What is it like to have a white mother, to be a Black woman that has a white mother? What is that complication like? Mariah Carey just lost her mother. God bless her. The complications that are there. Halle Berry. I have many friends that are women that have white mothers and men that have white mothers. What is it like to live in that space? And and while we're examining that, and we've never seen the character of Alberta before on screen before, Black people know her, but we ain't never seen her before on screen. What is that woman like? What is that world like? And while we're studying that world, I'm look over there because the monster's coming at you. But that's not the question that you asked. The question you asked was, what is it that I want people to walk away with? Finding your higher power and believing Black women.
Those two messages, we can all find our higher power. Damon always said, what do you call us, Damon? Heathens?
Y'all definitely going to hell in a handbasket. These are like the only two Black queens in all of America that like didn't grow up in church. And it's very
they
odd.
Didn't?
Like
Jordan and Donnie didn't?
No.
Hush your mouth.
Handbasket.
Hush your mouth.
Whereas like anywhere else you gather a bunch of Black queens, everybody grew up in church, but somehow I found the two that didn't.
Well, I like the fact that Tony then enjoyed the film because it really is it's a spiritual film. It's a faith-based thriller. So I like that that you enjoyed it and still didn't you didn't grow up in a church.
You gotta show up for
I definitely.
I was gonna say you gotta show up for Glenn Close in those wigs. I say, is that Glenn? I have never seen Glenn Close like that. When you talk about the character Alberta, I said I watched the trailer the first time and my husband was just like, is that Glenn Close? I was like, Glenn Close wasn't in this. What are you talking about? And then I was like, wait a minute, that is Glenn Close.
Yeah. She didn't really know what she was walking into until I think the beauty of what she learned about Black women was, Monique and Ingenue and Andra both had to tell her. It explained to her. She said, I look, my cellulite's out, my titties are out, my ass is out. What is sexy about this? And they had to explain to her about body positivity in Black women. And once she got that, it was over. It was over for Glenn. She was owning it. You know what I mean? So yeah. And that's a great lesson for her. I think that was a great walk away from her, just about what Black women how Black women hold their head up high.
Well, I love the message. We're going to leave our listeners and viewers with believe Black women when they speak up and find your higher power, whatever that is and whatever that looks like for you. So with that, that's all the time we have this week.
Wait a minute. I have a question for you.
Hello.
And for you, Jordan.
He said,
absolutely.
Can I flip the script now? I have a question. Okay. So what are your higher powers, Jordan and Tony?
So I grew up like religion adjacent, I guess. Like I didn't go to church at all with like my mom's side of the family. I grew up with my mom's side of the family in New Jersey during the school year. And then I did summers in Michigan with my dad's side of the family. I'm not really religious because I had a very bad experience with religion growing up and like homophobia. And so for me, I couldn't really decide on, and also like my dad believes in a religion that isn't as popular, but they're very, very strong about it. And I just feel like everybody has a religion and everybody thinks their religion is the only one that is the right one. And so for me, that was just kind of like an internal battle. So for me, I'm spiritual. I don't put a name to it. Like I do believe in like a creator, if you will. But I don't really have any intentions on identifying like a specific religion to align with. But I do think that there's something extraterrestrial going on with the world, but that's as far as I've gone in my exploration.
Oh my God.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it did answer my question. Thank you so much, Tony.
No, for
Jordan.
me,
Tony?
I am someone who I guess leans more spiritual. Like my grandmother is Baptist. Both of them. And they, the Black church is definitely omnipresent around me. I didn't grow up being made to go to church. And I think it's because my mother who raised me and her siblings, they went to church, but then I guess when they got their kids, they were like, we ain't making you do what we didn't want to do. We hated going to church, but we had to go. And so for me, I find my higher power in just like the universe. The universe guides me. There's always a feeling, a level of discernment within me that guides me. Life experiences. I write things down, manifestation. Those are the types of things that move me and I find my peace and solace in. It's just knowing that there is something out there guiding everything. I do believe in my steps being ordered and everything being divine intervention. However, I haven't read the Bible and I would hate to be like, I'm this thing when I haven't done my reading. So who knows what the future holds, but that's where I stand right now.
Would you like to sing a verse of Order My Steps now?
What's that?
I would not.
She don't even know that song. They don't even know that song.
And with that, that is all the time we have this week. If you enjoyed this episode, please let us keep the conversation going in the comments. Let us know your thoughts and questions at surfacelevelpodcast.com. And remember, stay curious.